everyone, I'm so excited because the lovely and talented Sarah is joining me in the kitchen today to teach me how to do something I've actually never done, preserving and canning. I'm a preserving and canning virgin.
Well, you know what? This is a really intimidating thing to some people, but I promise I'm gonna bust that myth. We're gonna do it, and I swear you're gonna be hooked.
Done and done. We're making jam, strawberry jam. Strawberry balsamic thyme jam.
Oh yeah, it's got an extra little kick. Before you start canning, there's a few items that you're gonna need to pick up. Now, you can get all of these at any big box store that sells canning supplies, and you can usually get them in a package or a big box starter kit. And that'll come with a pair of tongs, which you'll be able to take your jars in and out of the water with, really helpful. A canning funnel. This is vital to avoid a lot of mess and spillage in the kitchen.
I have learned recently the importance of the canning funnel.
My favorite item, which I just like to call a magnet stick, and this is gonna help you to remove your lids from boiling water. This little guy, which is a measuring stick, which is gonna help you to measure your headspace in your jars to make sure that they preserve properly. And lastly, for jams and some other items, you're gonna need pectin, and this is gonna help to thicken up your recipe. Now, you can usually get this in a grocery store as well, but it's also in the same aisle as all your canning goods. Before we start making our actual jam, we need to sanitize our jars. So to do this, we've got a big pot of boiling water ready. We're just gonna take the lids off and then stick all of these in the boiling water for 10 minutes. Now, when you're canning or preserving, you wanna make sure every tool you're using is sanitized. And this will ensure that your product doesn't spoil when you store it. Once your jars have sat in boiling water for 10 minutes, you can go ahead and turn the heat off, and then these will be fine sitting in hot water until we're ready to put our jam in them.
Jars are being sanitized as we speak. Now it's time to make some jam. I'm seeing a whole lot of sugar.
There's a lot of sugar, but I promise it's gonna be worth it. You don't eat this in large quantities, so it's all good. So to make our jam, super simple. We're gonna start off with about 8 cups of diced and chopped strawberries. We have a lot, I know it's a lot, but 7 cups of granulated sugar. Then we've got 1 package of pectin. Now this is gonna help to thicken up our jam. We've got about a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. This is really going to enhance the strawberry flavor, make it so tasty. We've got some greenery, making it a little bit healthy. 2 tablespoons of fresh diced thyme. Then lastly, we've got just a little bit, 1/2 teaspoon of unsalted butter. So first step to start making this jam, we've got to do a light mash on the strawberries. Now, if you like a really thin jam with no chunks, you can go ahead and throw these in your food processor, give them a quick blitz. But if you like a thicker, chunkier jam, like me, we're gonna do this mashing by hand.
Well, it helps when you're a yoga instructor and you have those pipes.
You know,
I might default to the food processor because, you know.
So you could do this with a potato masher, but today we're gonna use a ricer. Once the strawberries get to your desired consistency, we're ready to start making the jam. So we're gonna head over to the stove. So before we get the jam on the stove, we are just gonna pop the lids out of the rims. We're gonna stick them in a pot of boiling water. And we're also just gonna stick in any of the tools that we're going to use while we're canning. And again, this is just to make sure everything is sanitized, taking lots of precautions here. So we've got a ladle, we've got our funnel that we're gonna use in a little bit, and we've got our little fabulous magnet stick. So the best thing about this recipe is it's super quick. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put all of our strawberries, our balsamic vinegar, and our thyme into a large pot on about medium heat. Then we're gonna start to whisk in our pectin until it's dissolved and bring it up to a boil. We're gonna keep stirring the jam pretty consistently. So as soon as this comes up to a boil, we're gonna add in our sugar and our butter. Now the only reason we add in the butter is to keep it from foaming too much. It's just a nice little trick. Keep stirring as you're adding the sugar. And then as soon as it's all in there, we're gonna bring it back up to a boil.
It does sound like this is a perfect recipe for 2 people. You stir, I'll add.
Perfect. Then after we add the sugar, we're gonna bring it up to a boil again, let it hard boil for about 1 minute, and then we're ready to start putting it in our jars, the fun part.
I thought the fun part was actually eating it.
Well, yeah, I guess the fun part is eating it. We've been boiling for 1 minute, so we're gonna take this guy off the heat, turn that off. So we put our big spoon in our boiling water just to sanitize it, and now we are just gonna gently scoop off some of this excess foam. Our jars have been sitting in that hot water previously boiling. We're gonna start by grabbing our tongs, lift our nice sanitized jar out of the water. We're gonna bring it over to the side, grab our ladle and our funnel that have been sanitizing in the boiling water. Just stick that in your jar. We're just gonna start to gently ladle this into your jar. We're gonna fill it until you've got about 1/4 of an inch left at the top of your jar. And if you want, you can use that measuring stick that I mentioned before. Just stick it in there and it's gonna show you exactly what 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch looks like. Clean off that edge. If you have any jam on the edge, you're not gonna get a tight seal when you process the jars, and they will not be preserved properly. You're gonna grab one of your lids out of your water. Use one finger to just put that on the top. Something that's really important is you do not want to over tighten. So you just want to do it until it's finger tight. So as you can see, not too tight at all. You don't want to over tighten. If you do, it's going to break the seal. So just nice and gentle. We've got one done and we're ready to move on to the next one. As long as you make sure to keep everything sanitized, this process is super easy and pretty foolproof. You just want to be diligent with sterilizing your tools. This is one food process where it's not bad to be a little bit paranoid.
So final step is the most critical step.
Yeah, this step is definitely the most important. After you've put all your jam in your jars, it's time to process them. Now, processing them is the action of putting them into boiling water. We're gonna leave it in there for 10 minutes. This is gonna suck all the air out of those jars. This is what gives us the ability to store it outside of the fridge for 1 to 2 years. Now, in this case, like I said, we're gonna process them for 10 minutes. Depending on where you live, if you live at a higher altitude, you do need to adjust that processing time. So I've listed a table in the description below that shows all of those times for you. So our water has come back up to a boil. So Sarah Lynn, it's time to put our jars back in.
Okay, is there any wrong way to do this? Because I feel like
you just want to do it carefully to make sure you don't splash any boiling water on yourself. And the one thing you need to make sure is that you have at least 1 inch on top of your jars by the time all of them are in there. So once you've got all your jars in, we're gonna put the lid back on. We're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes and you wanna leave those undisturbed. So don't peek, don't take off the lid. So our jars have been processing for 10 minutes. We're gonna turn off our heat. So we're gonna take them off. You're gonna start to hear them pop seal as soon as they hit the cold air. See that little dimple come into the top of every jar. Oh, sometimes it will take a while, so you can give it up to an hour or 2, but usually they'll pop right away. Now that we've got all of our jams out, we're gonna leave them in a room temperature place for at least 12 hours before storing them in the cupboard or putting them in the fridge. Now, after 12 hours, you can do a quick test to make sure all of them have sealed. As you can see, you can just press down, and as long as that little dimple is in there, they've sealed properly. If there's one that you can still press down, see, that one either hasn't sealed properly or hasn't sealed yet. But after 12 hours, if that's still happening, you're gonna wanna eat that one right away or toss it out. We've got a finished jar here. This has been sitting for over 24 hours. So when you go to open your jar, even if it's a few months down the road, you just wanna make sure that when you open it, it's got a nice seal on it. See, you can see this isn't popping off at all. That means it was canned properly. And when you pop the top off, you're gonna hear that nice classic pop you hear when you usually open something in a jar. One thing you wanna watch out for is just make sure that when you open the jar, you don't see any bubbles moving up through the jam. If you have a few bubbles just on the top that were there already, that's fine. But as long as you don't see any moving up, you're good to go. If there are any moving up, you're gonna wanna toss that out because it wasn't preserved properly. Now, once your jam is all set, you can decorate them any way you want, and these make the perfect gifts, especially in summer when this fruit is in season.
this was actually one of the best experiences I've had in the kitchen because it really isn't as hard as it looks, and I'm so glad you came to show me how to do it.
Well, I can't wait to receive your future preserved gifts.
And I can't wait to give them out. Be sure to subscribe to The Domestic Geek for lots of delicious tips, tricks, and shortcuts, just like this one. And of course, to Coral, so you can see the lovely Sarah in all of her amazing yoga poses on Surviving Yoga. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Catch you on the flip side.